Welcome back, friends. Welcome back to another edition of Questions for Corbett. I'm your host, James Corbett of CorbettReport.com, coming to you, as always, in the sunny climes of Western Japan here in May of 2025. And this week, we are not going to take our questions from the mailbag. We are not going to take our questions from the comment section of CorbettReport.com. No, I am going to take real live questions from real live human beings. What? How? Well, as I hope you know by now, and if not, you can go see episode 477 of the podcast on Reportage Book Launch. Yes, I was in Osaka just a week or so ago, answering questions from a live audience of people who were there to hear me not only read from my new book, Reportage, Essays on the New World Order, but also to do some Q&A and book signing and what have you. So this time on Questions for Corbett, something a little special. It's going to be real live human beings who are asking questions in the flesh, which does make a difference, I think, and it was a nice back and forth, so I hope you enjoy it. So I guess first things first, of course you should get your copy of Reportage, Essays on the New World Order, available wherever fine books are sold, and of course at reportagebook.com. Secondly, you should probably watch the book launch if you haven't yet done so. I think it was a nice reading of a few passages from this book and will wet your whistle for what is contained in these 20 essays. And finally, let's enjoy the Q&A from that book launch. All right, if there are any questions that anyone would like to ask, now would be the time. And I believe we have a taker in the back.
James, I think probably everybody who is here right now went through some kind of process. Okay.
Yeah.
20 years ago, I used to think that CNN was news. You know, and I slowly evolved from that, and it's been a process. So, what was your aha moment that started you on this process?
Excellent question. The formal answer is in the first essay in this book. I talk about my tumbling down the rabbit hole process and how that resulted in the Corbett Report generally, and in this book in particular. And I'm sure anyone who's listened to my podcast has heard some variation of this story over the years. Long story short, I moved into a new apartment here in Japan in 2006. It came with an internet connection. It was the first time I'd had an internet connection in my home for several years. So I suddenly discovered all these amazing, brand new things that were happening online, like YouTube and Google Video. And that sent me down the rabbit hole because really, as I talked about in an episode called Pricking the Filter Bubble, I kept getting these recommendations to these wacky 9/11 videos. Oh, that's silly. I'd click on them for a laugh, and usually, or sometimes anyway, they would be laughable and nonsensical. But sometimes, that's interesting. That can't be true. Let me search that. No, oh my God, that's true. And it was that process that really sent me down the rabbit hole. But here's a different story. So I think there are many things that contribute to who we are over the course of our lifetime. That was the specific thing that definitely got me thinking about starting the Corbett Report. But even before that point, I think I was having moments like that. And one of them was in 2006, I was heading back to Canada to be the best man at my friend's wedding. And I was passing through customs in my home and native land of Canada with my Canadian passport. What could go wrong? And so the customs officers give me the usual, why are you here? Oh, to visit to be the best man at my friend's wedding and to watch the Flames win the cup. Never joke with a customs official because, of course, he makes whatever swirly, frowny face on my form, hands it back to me. Oh, okay, go on. And of course, somebody comes up to me, we need you to come over here for secondary screening. Okay, what magical, weird land have I just entered into? The land of I have no idea whatsoever what my rights are, or what this is, or what they can ask me, or what they can't ask me, or what I can say, or what I can do. So I was just along for the ride at that point. And this was 2006, early 2006, before I started even beginning the research that became the Corbett Report. So I wasn't prepared for any of this. And the customs officer is taking things out of my bag one by one, and gets to my phone. I had a brand new phone that I just bought in Japan. He gets it out and starts, can you turn it on? Can you show me your pictures? At that point, I only had like 2 or 3 pictures because it was a brand new phone. I believe one of them was of Sean, probably the front of his head, not the back, but he was flipping through and, who is this? And how do you know them? And things like this. Like, what? What is this? Pulls out, I was reading a Chuck Palahniuk novel at the time. I believe Monsters is in the title. I don't even remember. But I remember the customs agent looking at me and going, do you like this novel? And I'm doing the mental calculation of like, what doesn't sound like a terrorist? I guess it's okay. I thought his use of alliteration was pretty good. And like, what do you say to that, right? And then she, I can't even remember, pulls out my journal, starts flipping through it, reading my journal. Can I take a photocopy of this? I don't know. Can you? Are you asking me? Are you asking my permission? I have no idea whatsoever what my rights are in this situation, what's going on. I just shrugged. I don't know. And they went into another room with it and came back. I'm assuming they photocopied my journal. Cool. So that was the moment where I'm like, oh, maybe there's something to this war of terror thing that's going on that isn't quite as being advertised. To be fair, I did have a beard at the time and was traveling alone, so I could be some scary terrorist, but no. So that was maybe something that at the very least sort of prepared me, sort of set the trigger for what would come. Another thing that I can point to is I watched, I remember sitting in Japan, this was shortly after I came to Japan, watching Gandhi, the biopic, Ben Kingsley, right? I don't think they could go with that casting anymore, but and I remember watching the scene where they're burning their identity cards in defiance, because in South Africa, the Indians had to carry their identity cards at all times as a British law. And so they were making a point of the public protests, they're burning them and being beaten to a pulp by the British security guards as a result. And I remember watching that and going, all right, I have an identity card that I have to carry around at all times by law, being a foreign resident here in Japan. It had never even occurred to me that this is something that I should be angry about and burning, making protests, and oh my God, being beaten to a pulp and go to jail for. I just thought, oh, okay, I'll carry my card. So that was a moment where I thought, oh, right, okay, I've never really thought about that before. How did we get conditioned into just thinking that's totally normal? So there were a number of preparatory things along the way, but yeah, good question.
Search in Canada was random, or were you on a list at that time?
I cannot imagine how or why I would be on a list at that time. As I say, it was before I started anything to do with the Corbett Report. Hadn't done any of the research, wasn't doing any of that. So, I mean, could I have been? I don't know, I guess so, but why? I couldn't tell you why I would have been. That secondary screening has not happened again, so make of that what you will. I don't know. It seems, my sense is they had a quota. I made a funny comment, let's show this guy a lesson, but I don't know.
Do you think you're on a list now?
That is a question that I have received throughout, since I started my first ever podcast, like sending it out to my friends. Hey guys, can you listen to my new podcast? And I'd almost to a man, they'd be like, aren't you afraid you'll be put on a list? But I was like, no, that is exactly why I am doing this. I do not want to live in a society where we have to be afraid that we're going to be on a list if we speak up. That's the point at which we are enslaved. So, am I? It would be surprising if there was not, if only because of some of the people that I've talked to and interviewed who I know are being watched, Russ Tice and other NSA whistleblowers, their communications are being monitored. And so they've talked to me, so, at some point, in some way, I'm on a list. I have no direct evidence of any agents and whatever that are controlling things or trying to get me behind the scenes, but things happen, so, yeah. But ultimately, again, yeah, if, as Ernest Hancock, the Declaration of Independence always says, if you're going to be on a list, be at the top of the list. That's probably the safer place to be, so I'll keep shouting. Yes?
I have a question. I don't even know how to ask it. So this moral dilemma, as in how far can you go? As you said before, we all have to ask ourselves,
yeah.
And I know for myself that I've spoken out very early, already 2020, May. By chance, I saw on a YouTube video when David Icke was actually still on YouTube. In the comment section, we're meeting for, how do you say, a demonstration. Like, I've never gone to demonstrations, and I didn't go there to ask the government for nothing.
Yeah.
I just went there because I wanted to go out, because we were told not to go out.
Yeah.
So I left, and it was on the 4th of May, and we all met in front of like Scotland Yard. We were 15 people, all different ages, all different backgrounds, actually a lot from Eastern Europe.
Yeah.
And we all hugged afterwards and shared numbers. And you know, in August we were 45,000. And in my hometown Berlin there was 1.5 million.
Yeah, right.
I just had to choose, am I going to go to Berlin or here? So so that was a real grassroots thing, and I'm so glad I was part of it, because it was all just to keep sane, okay? To share information that we don't have to panic, and there are other people. But for instance, like you just said, you know, how far are you going to go? I wanted to come here today, and what did I do? I gave my fingerprints. Okay, of course, and you know, there's something I personally cannot live in this life, and that's without travel. Okay, it really, it's going to kill me. It's going to kill my soul. I'm already growing my own food. I'm only, you know, I'm networking with people, and I'm only farmers market, and I know the people that are getting food. So this is a big thing. So I know how to stay healthy, right? But these things, like, I just wanted to thought about, okay, let's go, let's see if I can go to, well, I live in Mexico, but like move to what's called Uruguay. And they said, oh no, for the visa, you need to get a tetanus shot and a mammogram. And I'm like, whoa, why? And so anyway, that's not happening for me anymore. So I know, you know, where my thing, but you know, like, I can't live with that.
Right. No, I get
and
you.
I'm sitting there, and I've had this many times where I'm like, if everybody would just say, no, I'm not going to go through there. I at least make a point every time that I don't go through the x-ray machine, and I say, can you give me a pat down? So I already feel a little more empowered with that. But like, I can't not travel anymore, okay?
Okay, there are a number of things I'd like to say to that. One of which is, you raise an important point about the social proof that comes from real people gathering in the real world, that yes, you can have 1 million people marching against the war in Iraq, and the mainstream media can and will and did completely ignore it to the best of their abilities. But for the 1 million people who are participating in it, it meant something. At the very least, it was a human connection with other people that shows, hey, I'm not alone. I'm not crazy. There are many people who believe what I believe, which is an important part of the human experience. We are, I was going to say social animals. No. I will not adopt the rhetoric of the globalists. We are social beings. We need that connection with other human beings. And I think one of the points of the grander agenda is to try to rip us apart from each other as much as possible. So that's an important part of it. But of course, when you do so, you do run the risk. Am I going to be on the list? I mean, if I'm one of the 15 people? Right?
At the demonstration, you know, against the second Gulf War, Iraq. Where were you personally?
Very good question. So at that time, I was in Dublin studying for my my master's degree in English-Irish literature. So I'm Canadian. I moved to Dublin, or lived in Dublin for a year to get my master's degree at Trinity. And I was in the common room of the Graduate Students' Union, reading and studying for some paper I was writing, as I could hear the protest in the street, and I could hear the people shouting and parading and dancing. And I was like, I'm trying to do reading in here. It's so loud. Because I was against the war and war in general, but I just thought, going out and protesting, what's the point? They're going to ignore it anyway. And they did. So I was right. But I'm not proud of that story in any way. Should I have been there? I don't know. Should I have?
Yeah, when I was in Japan at that time, and there were tens of thousands of people in Kyoto. I attended. And all along Kamigawa was. But that was the big awakening for me.
Yeah.
That people all around the world.
Yeah.
Even if the best they could do was just to demonstrate and stand up. Like
Demonstrate and stand up, yeah.
Just totally blown away.
Yeah. Well, at any rate, as I say, I think the human experience of forging common ground with other people, seeing the other people, hopefully making connections with other people that can propagate into the future is at least something that we can get from that. And to address the other part of your question, I would say one thing that we have to do, none of us are floating on clouds and totally perfect and, oh, I'm way above this agenda. Each one of you, when you came in, gave some of those matrix stakes. And yeah, I'm collecting them, and I'll give some of those matrix stakes over to Sean and some to Brock and some to the people that I'm working with in the world. We live in this system, so we can, poo-poo it all we want, but where do you draw the line? But that's, I think, the question. Where do you draw the line? And that's why I think the thing we have to do before we get to that line is decide where the line is. This is my line and no further. So whatever that is, I'm not taking the brain chip, might be a place to start. I don't know, something like that. That's my line. It's not going in my body. I've got one of the fondle slabs. How can you live without it? I had to order from a menu that wasn't a menu. It's a QR code you got to scan. You can't go to a restaurant and order food without a fondle slab. What are you, crazy? So yeah, we are all compromised living in this system. But at the very least, we have to know where our lines are and hopefully work on drawing those lines closer and closer so that we can actually live the life we want to live. But do not get demoralized that it's not 100% totally I'm detached from the matrix in every way overnight. Yes, I did it. We have to work towards that and hopefully bring, with our modeling of behavior, bring other people around to that. That's another thing that gathering in the real world can do, or various ways to do that. But for example, opting out of the body scanners. People see, oh, there's somebody opting out of that. I can do that? Or, hey, there's somebody opting out of that. I thought I was the only one who thought that was, crazy. Oh, there are other people, and they will be more likely to do it, and they will model it, and other people will see that. So there are things that can propagate and ripple out that we can't control or even know. But yeah, I think it is important. All right, let's have one more question, and then we'll go to the signing, and you can all talk to me individually as you come up.
Just to follow up, like you were mentioning, like social media, they collect all your information and everything.
Yes.
However, if there's enough people around the world, I mean, obviously overthrowing, governments in the Middle East and everything by use of Facebook. I mean, this is overthrowing governments. They're watching everybody's individual information, and gathering all that, but they can't get millions of people start, killing millions of people, right? I mean.
Funny you should say that, because there is a quote in this book from a certain Zbigniew Brzezinski that's precisely about that question. The calculus of whether it's easier to kill a million people or control a million people.
Right.
You'll be interested to hear what Brzezinski's take on that is, but yes, I mean, that is an actual calculation that they talk about themselves.
Okay. Yeah, it's like, so do we all opt out of that ability to connect with people in a press of a button and say, hey, we're meeting here to get that in person,
Well, talk about things that I have to wrestle with, like, okay, I'm not on YouTube, but I'm on BitChute, I'm on Odyssey, I'm on Rumble. Rumble? Peter Thiel's Rumble? I'm not. None of us are floating on clouds, but I gotta reach people. That's why I was on YouTube in the first place. In a million years, James Corbett pre-2007 wouldn't have even thought of starting a YouTube channel, but 2007, I gotta get this word out. Where do you go? You go to the YouTube, right? And it's probably because I did that you guys are here today, because how would you know about me if I hadn't taken those steps? So it is a conundrum, and I don't claim to be floating on clouds with any of that. Okay, one more question.
Yes.
Yes.
The new Pope.
Oh, yeah.
Are you Catholic, by the way?
I am not Catholic, no.
Okay. French, though, your last name?
Oh, no. Maybe 1,000+ years ago, but no, English, very English.
Have you already started on his background and everything?
I have not, because, no, I was preparing for this, so I don't know anything about him.
A little thing. So he interviewed his brother and everything. He went to seminary school when he was like 12 years old, and then went to Peru. And so all of a sudden he elevated just like J.D. Vance and Obama.
Yeah.
So he was ordained a cardinal just 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And it shocked everybody.
Yeah.
So where did he come from? So
Generally speaking, well, when people ascend like that, there's generally a story there. Yes, I should look into it.
I am Catholic, and I'm
Okay.
a little bit bummed that
Yeah.
was a choice.
If you have information about that, please do send it in. And,
I'll send it.
Yeah, cool. All right, thank you. Thank you again, everybody, for coming. Please enjoy the time here. We're going to be here till 4:30 or something like that, and I will be signing, so everyone can come up and we can exchange some words in person, face to face. Thank you again for your attendance here. I really appreciate it.
The Deep State. False Flags. 9/11 Truth. The Federal Reserve. Secret Wars and Hidden Histories. Fake News. Medical Martial Law. Ceaseless Propaganda. James Corbett. Reportage. Essays on the New World Order. Available where books are sold. Until they're not.
REPORTAGEBOOK.com